Hey guys, welcome back to Project LT500R Quadzilla. This is part 3, and today's gonna be pretty fun. For lack of a better word, we're basically just installing a lot of bling today. So we're going to finish up the bike with all the bumper, adding a super awesome, super cooler radiator system, adding some aluminum foot pegs, a lot of goodies, a lot of fun to look at goodies. Thank you guys so much for the support so far. The channel's growing faster than I ever thought it would. The enthusiasm behind the hobby of ATVs, maybe even just two-stroke ATVs, is just awesome. You guys all rock. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate the comments and all the support. I hope you guys are enjoying it. All right guys, so I said today we're gonna be installing a lot of bling. By that, I basically meant the stuff that's on the cart here. So we've got a lot of really cool stuff here actually. These are some all aluminum LT500 foot pegs. They actually have LT500 stamped into them. We're gonna install those. We've got a brand new Duncan Racing front bumper, which is gonna just totally set this bike off. We've got a super cooling radiator kit from Michael Steiner. Even more so gonna set the bike off. Some anodized bits. We got some anodized motor mounts, shifter, a clutch arm down there. We've got some ASV levers. We got the billet gas cap we're gonna install along with the gas tank. We've got some awesome, these are some billet motor spacers that are actually gonna go in the, I gotta take the, basically the bottom bolt out here, which is ironically loose. So I'm gonna take that back out and put the spacer back in, put these aluminum spacers in, which is awesome. But yeah guys, it's basically just wrapping up the bike all the way. I've got some really cool stuff coming from HSD Racing. I've got some reservoir mounts that are gonna clamp onto the frame and then hold the reservoirs on the other end. I'm gonna be putting them on Project LT500R and replacing what I did on Project LT250R and getting the reservoirs a little better mounted. You can kind of see what the super cool radiator kit's gonna look like. This is the super cool radiator kit on Project LT250R, and it'll be going there for Project LT500R. I've just got a lot of little odds and ends to button up today, but I'm pumped to see this thing. All right, I've got the motor mount spacer bag opened up, and that's what we're gonna start with today. As you can see, there's different sizes of the motor mount spacers. The tallest one is what's supposed to go on the bottom motor mount down in there. And then the other two sets, there's a middle height one and a short one. Those are gonna go right in there, and they're gonna go between the motor mount bracket and the engine, so right in there. One little side note, I would recommend not putting or tightening up all of the motor mount bolts until you've got them all in. When they're loose like that, you can line everything up and get everything in the perfect position, and then go ahead and tighten it up when you've got them all in there. And now that I've got all my motor mount bolts in place, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten everything up. I'm gonna go ahead and just knock out some big stuff here. I'm gonna go ahead and install the super cooling radiator kit. And to recap, this isn't essential for your everyday rider. This is more of a dune mod. In the dunes, what happens is it's very hot and you're at wide open throttle a lot more often. So what this extra little radiator does is it increases your square footage of cooling capacity about 1.5 times. And that obviously just helps keep your coolant cool. And so you'll have a lot more peace of mind running wide open in the dunes, knowing that your engine's not gonna overheat. So that's super cool. Plus, it's just another piece of artwork that I can put on the bike to really set it off. that went very, very smooth. It was awesome. I might, just because I've got a couple extra of these radiator hose fins, I might kind of splice one of the fins in there-ish, just kind of for the heck of it. I think I've also somewhere around here got a temp gauge that I might run into that line, just for even more overwhelming blue anodizing. But yeah, that super cooling radiator kit went on freaking awesome. And yeah, it fits this bike very, very well. Found it. Actually, I also found this. This is kind of cool. This is a Quadzilla CNC engraved brake reservoir cap. Is it completely functionally useless? Arguably, yes. Is it still definitely gonna go on this bike, and would I definitely buy another one? Absolutely. Just a word to the wise for cutting radiator hoses. If you ever splice them to throw on these little, you know, cooling fin things, I would always be very, very conservative on the hose when you cut it. It's just like when you get a haircut. You can always cut more hair, you can't put hair back. With a radiator hose, you can always cut more, you can't always put it back. So be very, very conservative and make sure you don't come up short, because that'd be worst case scenario. All right, so the radiator just looks amazing. I don't have words for it. The temp gauge looks awesome, as does that extra cooling fin in there. Yeah, this bike is basically just throw every single piece of trickness on it and just see how it turns out. The parts pile is even further dwindling. I'm gonna keep doing big stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the bumper on and get the reservoirs in the right spot. And I'll also have to put the plastic air scoop in here too. This is pretty satisfying. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Duncan front bumpers in person, but they are gorgeous. And this is brand new. This is fresh from the chromer. My finger's stuck. This thing is, it's really cool. It's pretty satisfying to open brand new parts that totally set bikes off and mount right up. Well, pretty much. Wow. Just wow. This thing is turning out so good. All right, so I'm gonna install the shifter, the clutch arm, the clutch lever real quick. But before I do that, I was just gonna mention, I'm actually about to lower the bike down, which I would never thought I would have heard myself say, because I always like having the bike higher so I don't have to bend my back over. My back hurts all the time, and I'm assuming that a lot of guys' backs hurt all the time. This is just basically more free advertising for Pit Posse. The stand that I'm using, I highly recommend it. It's like 150 bucks, shipped to your door, and basically it'll save you so much back pain when you're working on the bike. You're never bending over. So just so you know, I am 6'3" in shoes. These bars are basically at my jawline. Now granted, this is a +1 Lone Star stem, and it's got like a +1 bar riser as well. So it's like kind of a +2, so the bars would probably be right about here, but still that's like at my jaw. So this is knocking at the door of being 6 feet in the air at the highest point. And that's just so awesome for anyone who struggles with back pain in any facet of life, but especially when you're working on bikes. The last thing you want is to be injuring yourself when you're working on bikes. So a quick little tip, when you're installing or removing the clutch arm here, you have to remove the bolt all the way. You can't just loosen it. The shaft of the bolt actually acts as a locking mechanism, and it goes into that little bitty groove on the shift shaft here, and it won't let the clutch arm be installed or removed. And then one other note on that point is when this clutch arm is installed and it's all the way down, please try not to be using flat blade screwdrivers here especially, but honestly especially anywhere on the engine. Try to stay away from flat blade screwdrivers as much as you can. When people are prying and gouging up the aluminum to try to get bits of the motor apart, it is just hard to look at, but it's also bad for the gasket surfaces. The gasket surfaces have to be very, very flat and true, and when there's big, gnaw marks in it, it makes the gasket surfaces really hard to for the gasket to seal up with. So just a quick overview. Screwdriverless motor disassembly. When you're trying to take your top end off, disconnect power valve, and then you can loosen hardware here, and you can actually just kick the bike over with the Kickstarter, and the force of the compression of the engine obviously makes sure your head stay and stuff like that is taken off or loosened. And if you want to break things free, use your Kickstarter for the top end. For the bottom end, remove all the hardware, use a rubber mallet for stuff like the water pump. And then the cases actually have this like a tab here. There's a tab down below as well, like down here. And those are actually made to be hit on. There's actually a thick piece of aluminum here too you can hit on to remove like the clutch cover here. The stator cover comes off real easily. And then when it comes to splitting cases, I mean, obviously you're probably not gonna try to split cases with a screwdriver anyways, but you definitely need a case splitter for that. So basically, that's just a quick overview of how to completely disassemble a motor flat blade screwdriverless. Same thing with the shifter bolt. It is a locking mechanism for the shifter, and it goes right in the groove on the shift shaft there. So make sure that it is fully removed before you try to remove the shifter. All right, guys, that's actually a wrap for the day. We got all the goodies on besides the gas tank and the gas cap, but man, oh man, this thing it speaks for itself. You don't need to hear anything else from me. Love the radiator, love the bumper. Shock's gonna be nice and mounted up right about here with that HSD Racing reservoir clamp. I've got to mount the fender brace on. I've actually got a custom fender brace that has to go on the bike to clear the Dr. Q pipe. But yeah. Ooh, I need to put this radiator hose on. I realized that not only did I need to run my upper radiator hose, but I also needed to run my clutch cable, and basically just a revision. Don't install the clutch arm yet. You probably want to have the clutch arm off to be able to route the clutch cable through it first and then put it down on the bike. One last thing to note, when you're putting your clutch arm on, the shift shaft coming out of the motor has some free play in it. You can rotate it about 30 degrees with your fingers. But when the clutch arm is on there, it's going to be pulling clockwise. And so what I'd recommend is taking your shaft and rotating it all the way counterclockwise to bottom it out. And then I'd actually recommend setting your clutch arm not perfectly, like I'll call this 0 degrees, not perfectly at 0, and definitely not forward. I'd recommend putting it about 10 degrees back, maybe right about there. And that way your clutch range your clutch arm is very leveraged in its best position right about here to go from -10 degrees to about +10 degrees, as opposed to having it here and it rotating from like 10 degrees to like 30 degrees. That's not a very leveraged position. Your clutch arm ends up getting like bending your clutch cable and stuff like that. So I'd recommend trying to have the range of motion being even, like I said, about -10 degrees to +10 degrees that way. All right, guys, part 3 of Project LT500R is complete. This thing, again, just speaks for itself. The colors are just going together so well. I can't get over this front end. This front end is just incredible looking. Everything, all the nice, perfect chrome goes together so well. Part 4, get ready. We're gonna get it started and ready to go. And again, it's kind of crunch time. There's less than a month before both Project LT500R and Project LT250R have to be ripping in the dunes in Winoka, Oklahoma. So, and both of them actually have yet to be started. So we got to get that guy going. And then there's actually 2 more bikes that I don't even know if I'm gonna have time to film. I got to get this bike ready to go too. This 87 Zilla we picked up is gonna come with us on the trip. And then I've actually got to do a bunch of work to my RM250 as well. It's a very clean bike, as you can tell. Hardly babied, hardly ever ridden. Yeah, I gotta do a bunch of that to that bike too before we go on the riding trip. But Project LT500R, stay tuned. The next video is gonna be, you're gonna get to hear, I'm gonna get to hear what this thing sounds like. And again, as always, guys, I hope you guys are enjoying it. I really appreciate all the comments and feedback and support that you guys have given. Until next time.